when you're in that industry, you've got to be pretty creative in thinking about how you're going to get your message out to your audience. And so one of the first ones that opened up for that was billboards. So it was pretty interesting. Here in San Diego, we have lots of Indian casinos, and they are some of the biggest advertisers on billboards. But then quickly, the cannabis industry really exploded and bought billboards up all over the place. So you're either getting asked to go gamble or go smoke. So it's kind of two choices as you drove down the freeway, you know? The individual, especially if they've been suffering in that, but yeah.
It's so hard watching people hurt. Like that's where I struggle is it doesn't matter who it is. Being around people that are hurting is so hard for me.
Yeah. I woke up this morning and I saw a post from our community school district, and they were sharing that a high school student passed away Monday night. And the way that they wrote the post, it implied that it had either was a suicide or definitely had something to do with mental health and just emotions right now. And it is so scary because so many people, are dealing with greater ones through this pandemic, either because of isolation, whether you're young or old. And yesterday I was driving out to a client in the east part of San Diego County, and I went to take the off ramp to go from Interstate 15 to Interstate 8. And it was blocked because there was an individual on the freeway getting ready to jump. And so they had blocked the freeway so that they could try to talk to her. And I was right about to take the off ramp because they literally had just shut it down. So I was stopped, and she was sitting on the rail with one leg over the side. And I just was like, oh my gosh. But thankfully there were probably 8 to 10 law enforcement there to try to help her. And I could see one of them talking to her and a couple other approaching to try to help.
Well, this is a sensitive subject for me for sure. But yeah, I'm glad to be back. Needless to say, the funeral for me was very peaceful and very good. And yeah, it ended up just fine. It's just a lot of work and a lot of emotions, and everybody's dealing with it, and it's okay. So, but anyways, welcome. Thank you very, very much for joining me on a happier note.
Exactly.
Excuse me. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Brian. How close are you to the fires, by the way?
Thankfully, we where I live in San Diego County, we did have one in the east part of the county that burned quite a bit, but it was in mostly a remote area. There were a handful of homes that did get damaged, but the majority are up in Northern California. So we've kind of avoided that poor air quality that even people in Utah and Idaho have been experiencing as everything blows east, But it's one of those things. It's not a matter of if we're going to have fires, it's when and how big are they going to be, a routine every year, unfortunately. So it's just sad to see how many, just how much of Mother Nature's burning, and let alone how many homes are damaged and all that. So, but thankfully it's a beautiful, what do they call it? A postcard Chamber of Commerce day here in San Diego right now. The sky is just gorgeous right now. It's 9 o'clock here, beautiful blue sky.
You lucky. I love it. Yeah. Wyoming had terrible wind, terrible smoke and air. It was awful. Worse than Utah for the most part, as far as air quality. We couldn't see anything this weekend. We went into Colorado and it was pretty good. I guess there's some good fires in Colorado also. We went over to see my grandparents in Colorado, and the air over there the sky was beautiful. It was perfect. Wow. But yeah, back to Wyoming.
I don't get the airstreams, but I guess that's why I'm in advertising and not a meteorologist. So
that's right.
I gotta say that would be one of the best jobs if you do the weather, right? Especially in a city like San Diego, because your chances of being right are probably 99%. Hey, it's probably going to be a beautiful day, folks. And then in the odd chance you're wrong, everybody's happy because we need rain. So if you are wrong, it's not a bad thing.
That's exactly right. Cool. So tell me a little bit about Target River. This is your company. Yeah.
So we are a marketing agency. We are full service. So in terms of kind of the traditional language in that, we take care of all types of marketing needs for clients. So if they are a brand or a business that needs big exposure, like from television and radio or billboards and stuff, we can take care of that. If they need a more tactical approach because they've got a certain community they need to reach, or maybe they reach the whole country, but it's a very particular audience, then we use some very strategic digital tactics to help. And so we like to be able to help people with any need. That way we don't lead them with a bias. Because if all we knew was, let's say, email and direct mail marketing, then that's all we'd ever pitch anybody. And it might not be the best tactic for them to use. So we've got personnel that can take care of any need for a client, which is really helpful for them.
Very, very good. So tell me, being in California, how involved are you in the cannabis and hemp space, and how much crossover do you see either in business and or personal life?
Yeah, so it's definitely been growing quite a bit, and especially the past handful of years with the change in laws, and from the medicinal use to now the recreational use, and we are seeing shops open up left and right, both from the cannabis side and obviously a wide variety of CBD products, whether they're topical or digestible. It's an exploding industry, still kind of the Wild West a little bit in terms of many shops opening that aren't supposed to be open. So we're still seeing regularly, probably monthly shops, throughout California that will get shut down that weren't licensed to open yet. And then the ones that were allowed are doing great. I tell you, one space that was really interesting the last probably 24 months from an advertising side to see was how many shops went to billboards to advertise. Because with this industry, there are a lot of restrictions in the different types of marketing that you can do. For instance, you can't just take a radio ad and run it on most radio stations. That's restricted. You can't run it on most television type stations. A lot of the digital ad platforms like Google and Facebook won't accept certain types of ads. So when you're in that industry, you've got to be pretty creative in thinking about how you're going to get your message out to your audience. And so one of the first ones that opened up for that was billboards. So it was pretty interesting. Here in San Diego, we have lots of Indian casinos, and they are some of the biggest advertisers on billboards. But then quickly, the cannabis industry really exploded and bought billboards up all over the place. So you were either getting asked to go gamble or go smoke. So it's kind of two choices as you drove down the freeway,
I guess that goes with the nice weather.
Yeah, but we are seeing some great new things coming out. One of the exciting things, we have a new client that recently joined our agency that's launching an entirely new brand of CBD products, both with THC and without, digestible as well as topical, and really excited. I can't reveal their name yet, but it is, people are going to love the name when they hear it. And it's been neat to learn about their journey and process to try to help differentiate themselves, because as a consumer of the products, right, there's so many different choices out there. And one of the big challenges is the consistency or lack of consistency that you often find in the product, even from the same company. You might buy one set of gummies and you use them and you have a great experience, and then you go back and get a refill the next month and it doesn't have the same impact. And so that's one of, I think, the exciting things I'm seeing is the botanists in the world, so to speak, coming into this industry and saying, how can we make sure we've got a consistent and pure quality product for the consumers? And so from a marketing standpoint, I love that, because when we're working with brands and companies, we want to make sure we're supporting those that have a great product, a great message, a great service. And then ultimately what matters most is the customer has a good experience, So as that consistency of the product and quality comes into the industry more and more, then that ultimate customer experience will be better, I think.
Absolutely. There's still a lot of garbage, even now, like you said, you'll get, and no fault of the farmer. you get a different crop, different seasons, depending on where it's grown or what weather's done and how it's harvested, what method is used to harvest it, right? Or to extract it. Yeah, there's a lot of things that definitely play to the flavor, the consistency. Earlier, you mentioned some of the pitfalls or struggles in the marketing space around the cannabis hemp industry. Can you speak specifically, as I try to explain to people that are not in this industry or are not familiar, and you explain a lot of the things that this industry really struggles with, such as banking or marketing regulations and changes? What specifically about Google or Facebook or I didn't realize TV and radio were so restricted, so I'm interested in learning, what are the restrictions? And I understand from personal experience, I can't use I can't use cannabis. Sometimes I can get away with hemp. Why is hemp different than cannabis in the marketing scheme? But yeah, I'd be curious in diving into that a little bit if you can share.
Yeah, no problem. And it is really interesting to see how each platform is treating this right now. And it's going to keep evolving, literally, if not by the month, by at least every quarter, as new regulations occur in more states vote to legalize the use of it. And it will adjust what words can even be used and targeted in campaigns. So speaking from the broad side, currently one of the we do have those restrictions with television and radio. The caveat is for those markets like San Diego, where some of our radio stations are actually broadcast out of Mexico. So they're the properties are located here in San Diego. They're English-speaking stations. One of them is an old school station. Another one is a kind of current hit station, for example. But because their license in Tower is on a hill just across the border, they don't have to follow the U.S. regulations. So interestingly, those stations are able to take advertisements from various products. And so some of the border towns like along Texas do have that little loophole that you can go through for them. But in general, it's a no-no right now. When you're a brand in this space, some of the biggest areas that you can look at to try to promote yourself are going to be, as we talked about earlier, billboards, of course. And there's some good and bad about billboards. There's kind of two key types. You've got your traditional ones, which is when you print the material and you stick it up on there. And so everybody driving by gets to see that. And then you've got the newer digital boards that come out that have a new message that rotates about every 8 seconds roughly with several other advertisers. So two different approaches there.
Are those called Blip boards?
Blip is a company that buys up remnant inventory from other billboard companies and resells it. So they are, it's a good business or company to go through if you have a very small budget to spend. Otherwise, you're much better off going directly to the owner of those billboards. That might be Clear Channel, Yesco, Lamar, Outfront, or some of the others. But again, Blip is just an online tool that is aggregating remnant stuff and selling it at a premium because they're having to mark it up, as is the markup from the actual billboard company themselves. But it is a way.
You're just buying like so many seconds basically on the billboard.
So many of those rotations, right? Exactly. So if your budget is $100 and each blips, as they call it, is 20 cents, you're going to get, what's that? A couple thousand blips or times that your image will show up on that digital billboard. Exactly. So when it comes to some of the other key ones, a big thing is with your website, making a difference in terms of the organic search. Okay. So that is when people are searching for some sort of product or a keyword. And when you do a search, whether it's on Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or one of the other platforms, how well does your website show up in those search results? Okay. So that is one of the most powerful things that you can do to impact your web traffic to your site, is to have really good SEO or search engine optimization strategy. Okay. And that can really make a huge difference because there are no regulations on that. Okay. In terms of you can't, it allows you to do as much effort and work that you can do to promote your brand. And there's some key things there. So when someone does a search, and let's say they're looking for a shop near them, so they say CBD near me. Okay. Google and all the other search engines are going to say which website is going to give that person the best answer. Okay. So they're going to quickly scour their databases of all the sites that are out there and then rank sites based on who they think answers that person's question the best. Okay. So when you do a search, the first thing you see are the paid ads, right? If they exist. Then the next thing you typically see if you're on Google is the list of Google businesses or Google business listings. Okay. Traditionally with search, you wanted to get what was called position 1, which was that first listing of a website. Okay. And that's still a good place to be. But what we focus on with clients is what we call position 0. And that's the place between the top of your search bar where the paid ads are and the first organic listing. That's where you're going to have not only the Google business listings if you're on Google, but that may be where you have images that show up, videos that show up, questions. So if Google or Bing thinks there's a question that's relevant to what you're asking, they'll present that along with an answer. And the answer is coming from somebody's website. So that's the holy grail of area that we want to try to help clients get to. And to do that, there's a lot of great tactics, but really it's about having tremendous content on your website and making sure that it's technically built right so that the search engines can find it easily and then serve that to their clients, the people that are searching. And so that's to us.
So I want to understand.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand how this happens, right? It's based on the words typed in. And I learned this a little bit when hand sanitizer became a big thing, right? There's this big push. Everybody went out and said, okay, everybody's going to need hand sanitizer and PPE. So I'm going to go out and we're going to push this and sell it. Now I created a website, but when I started to search the cost per click or per word on things like CBD, hand sanitizer, masks, PPE, the cost per click was extremely high. So I describe it like this to people sometime, and correct me if I'm wrong, is just because we put up a website and our website says the keywords CBD or hand sanitizer, it's like putting our product on the top shelf at Walmart and thinking people are going to find it, right? Now we have to come up with creative ways so that when you type or a customer types in a question, your website pulls as many of those words in that question from your site. And that's how you become at the top. Is that right?
That's the foundation of it. Correct. Okay. And so when you are building a website, and we find this often with a lot of clients, okay, they have a beautiful website, something that maybe could even win them an award, right? But most website developers do not do a great job of doing the foundational work to make sure the search engines can actually find that website once it's launched. So that comes to things like the descriptions on each page. Do each of your headlines have a proper description? Does each image have a description of what that image is? If you have videos, are there descriptions on there? Have we done canonical tags, which allow them to index the site and understand what your site has? So there's so many different things that go into building the behind the scenes things that we may not see with our naked eye, but the computers see. Part of it also is content on your page. And there's been this kind of war and balance between designers and developers and SEO people, because designers want beautiful, pretty, right? And words are not very pretty when you have a ton of them on a site. SEO people want lots of content. So they will traditionally say, hey, you should have 250 to 350 words per page at least. Okay. So it's that balance of how do we get a lot of content that the search engines can learn about our site, but on our website, but in a place that is discreet and maybe not detracting from the design. And so that's one of those things that we work on, as well as how do we make sure the search engines know about us, have lots of information to index, but doesn't detract from that design. And so once you do that work, the key thing is to make sure that the search engines know that you've done that work. So it's important to create a proper sitemap that's organized well and structured properly, because it'd be like, trying to think back to when we used to travel before we had Google Maps and stuff, right? And you were trying to use, a Thomas Brother guide or directions that somebody gave you and stuff. It was really disjointed and it was tough and you often got lost, right?
Well, I just have to call on this. I was laughing about it this weekend when I was driving through Colorado. Do you remember when these maps started and it would say turn left instead of turning north, east, south, or west? So depending on which direction on the road you were coming from and you followed the map quest, you were going somewhere completely different because it's same thing. Like there was no structure and foundation.
And then
I validate that.
And then God forbid that you actually decided to redirect or something and go, oh, hey, I'm going to go off the route for a minute, because then your map quest, you were screwed.
Redirecting.
If traffic happened, yeah, exactly. All of a sudden you have a traffic jam. You had to stick with the traffic jam because there was no Google rerouting you or Waze or something doing that. So, but
that's why mayhem. Remember that.
With the sites, is they want to know, and they've got massive buildings with literally, servers the size of football fields that are scouring all this data constantly. And you can see, if you do a simple search on Google, you get a search result back in like half a second. And it shows how many websites it searched in that nanosecond of a time. Right. So if you haven't done a good job of building the site right and giving them a really detailed map that's indexed properly, they're just going to suppress you and push your site down. So another important thing nowadays that people miss out on is, for many years, most search was done by us typing, right, on our device. And we'd type the question out. And we would use shorter phrases, okay? So pizza near me, let's say. Now, more and more search is happening from, the majority of search happens from a mobile phone. And by the end of this year, they are predicting that the majority of that will be by a voice. Hey, Google. Hey, Siri. Hey, Alexa. Oh, now my phone's asking me what's up.
And I'm actually curious. I know I always have to turn mine off. I don't dare say her name because she'll turn on.
Exactly. She's always listening.
I also wonder how many of it actually just pulls up without any, you just type in food or say food, and right? And it just naturally pulls everything up from your phone. You can,
That's the scary predictive portion, because it's learning about you. So it knows a whole lot about me. This computer knows a whole lot about me. But with that, when people talk, they ask longer questions. Okay. So instead of saying pizza near me, they might say, hey, what's a great pizza place that does Chicago style or does deep dish or does, so they'll do a much longer search result. So that means you've got to have more words, more content to match with those search results that are happening. And so it's just a new challenge, that a new wrinkle in there. The other big thing, and it's amazing how many sites we see that fail in this area, is and they say this in sports. So if anybody listening that's a sports fan, they'll talk about speed kills, right? So if you have a football team and you've got great speed in your cornerbacks or wide receiver or running backs, you can kill the other team. Same thing, but negatively on websites. If you have a slow website, you will get punished by the search engines, okay? Because we are not patient people anymore. For those of us that experienced internet when it was the dial-up and we had that waiting for it to connect, we were excited if we connected to a website in like a minute. Now people, on average, if your website takes more than 3 or 4 seconds to load, people are on to the next website. So what happens is, when Google and Yahoo and Bing and DuckDuckGo and these search engines, they're speed testing your sites. So if they see you have a slow site, they're not going to rank you high. So they're going to just take your website and push it down, because they don't want to send people to it, because they know the person's not going to have a great experience, because they'll click on your link and it'll take forever to load. And so,
well, and I would imagine as those bugs are crawling the site, and if you're frozen, it skips over. It's like when your turn gets skipped at a game. You don't get to buy the property in Monopoly. I hate it when I end up in jail, because then everybody buys all the property. I feel like this is the same thing. Everybody else is getting all the credit. Your site's there, but if it's not functioning, it's not picking up those words like it needs to.
Yep. And it literally can be the difference between, if your site's 5-6 seconds and your competitors is 3 or 4 seconds, guess what? If all things else are equal, they're going to get ranked above you. And it's really important. We see some sites where they're really fast on a desktop, but they're super slow on a mobile phone. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. The majority of searches are on a mobile phone. So make sure you test that. So there's a great tool Let me make sure that I say it properly. GT Metrics, GTmetrix.com is a great free tool that people can go to, and they can punch in their website address, and it'll actually do a speed assessment of your site and tell you what issues might be causing it to operate slowly. And you don't need a subscription to it. They do offer one, and all that really does is it allows you to test your site from a lot more different IP addresses. So if you're like a big nationwide or international e-commerce company, you might want to test it to see how it functions in California versus Utah versus Canada versus Indonesia. But otherwise, the free version works just fine. And it's a great way to at least check and say, how are we doing? Because a lot of people think their site's great because they go onto it and they check it from their computer, but your computer remembers that website. They know, and it's already preloaded on your computer. So your experience with it is going to be very different than somebody possibly that's visiting it for the first time.
That's really good advice. I always try to put it in the incognito to test things out too.
Yep, to see how that is. Exactly.
And see if things are really redirecting. Because like you said, I'm on a Windows, and let me tell you, Google has a magic to it that is a real pain in my rear when it comes to remembering and connecting emails and contacts. And I have multiple emails logged in, but every time I log in and go to send a calendar invite, my computer will remember which Gmail I was logged into last, and will automatically go to that. Or we'll do the same thing for Zoom, because each email has a different Zoom account, right? And so, oh my gosh, I have failed miserably at this part because Google has outsmarted me.
Yeah, exactly. I know sometimes you just want to look at it and go, what are you doing? So
I actually just want a new computer for this reason, because I want to start up and just put all my work stuff on one and all my personal on the other. Yeah. So talk to me about, in this space, what have you seen that are big differences outside of some of our restrictions, right? What are some of the big differences compared to other companies? Obviously billboards, right?
Yep. So a couple other great tactics that are allowed for this industry. One is video pre-roll. Okay. So what that is, if you are getting ready to watch content online, maybe you're going to check out a news story or watch a funny clip of somebody tripping 20 times or whatever it might be. And before you start that video, you're presented in a video ad. Okay. That video pre-roll. So that is actually allowed within this space. And there is some great creative I've seen out there where people have been fun, informative, their different style that fits their brand, but that's an available spot to do. And what's fantastic is you can reach people for as little as 2 cents. Okay. So I can imagine the power of that. You target who you want. So you can drill down the targeting and say, I want to serve this video in these geographies to these type of people, and people that were maybe searching for this type of product or words. And I only want them to see this video, and I can send it to them to their device when they're watching for 2 cents. That's powerful, and it's inexpensive. And what's nice too is if they're interested in the product or what you're talking about, they can click the video and go right to your website. So then you've got them now in your funnel to try to share that, to pitch them whatever it is you're doing. So that's a really powerful tool that is available for the space. Highly recommend it, because the most trusted, this is data from about 2 years ago, so it's a little outdated, but still I'd say pretty relevant to share. The most trusted paid form of traditional paid advertising is TV or video marketing. Okay. The most trusted online paid advertising is video marketing. So you're getting a powerful message that's most believable and a low cost, and you can get web traffic out of it. It's like a perfect trifecta. So that's a great one to utilize.
And allowed in the industry. I think this is a huge key that I didn't know about or hadn't really considered. And I shouldn't say hadn't considered. Cost to make videos and good video production can be pretty costly, pretty expensive. What do you have for tricks or advice even on videos? Because I feel like bad video is more detrimental than no video sometimes.
Bad video is, but cheesy, funny, maybe a little bit raw is okay. All right. Because so we had a client, not in the space here, but I had a client who's an elected official, and he reached out to us and he said, hey, I want to do a big event for the community where I'm going to do a State of the Union for the community. And I need to do it before the mayor does theirs because I want to do it. I want to trump her. So I said, great. When do you want to do it? And he said, well, it's on Monday. And this was like Thursday. And I was like, oh my gosh, nice advanced planning. So I asked him, I said, where are you right now? And because I happened to be in the same city that he was at that moment. So we met at a park. We filmed it on my cell phone, him inviting the community to come to his event. And he was so nervous that it's not polished. There's not makeup. There's not lighting and all of that stuff. People loved it because he was candid. He was talking about it. So that's a little extreme being that, guerrilla marketing. But my point is you don't have to have the tens of thousands of dollars production video necessarily. A solid, great video. Let me see which trophy it is. Which one is it? One of these trophies is for a video we did for a client this year. And the budget for that video was about $3,500 all in with video production, sound, music, the whole 9 yards. And it got the equivalent of a silver medal in a massive competition. So budgets don't have to be huge and big. You just have to make sure you're putting the right message there that's going to match the audience that you're sending it to.
Well, and honestly, it's the consistency, right? And like you said, people are relating to who you are. It's a huge turnoff to me when it comes to buying product that I hear all the time that their product is the best product from everybody. They're the best, they can cure everything, but I want to know why, right? And so I feel like it really does. We've had a lot of conversations about this. It comes down to your messaging and connecting with your audience and knowing that the person you're talking to is genuine and real. And the person I'm buying from has my interest, my best interest in mind. So I think the video production
every product or every brand can't all be the best, right? You have to figure out what is your differentiator, and you all can't use that same claim. And so yours might, have the quickest, people's bodies might respond to it quicker, or it gives you greater relief. It is cheaper. It is easier to get. It digests and your body starts to process it faster. What are those different things that you can try to claim that everybody's not going for, and stake your claim on that?
Well, and that goes to the messaging, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that you, reveal that messaging. Yeah.
So another great tactic beyond video is what's called display advertising. Okay. So think of when you've gone to a website and you see those banner ads, and sometimes they're shaped like a billboard. Sometimes they're shaped like a building. So they call those ones skyscrapers. And it could be any website you're going to. You could be going to a travel site, Amazon, ESPN, wherever it might be. And you're served those ads. So there are plenty of websites that will receive and allow CBD-based display ads, okay? Also, apps. So when you're on your mobile phone and you go to use an app, so I use a sleep machine app on my phone, so it rains every night in my bedroom, okay? And at the bottom of that, I'm always served display ads, okay? And so that's another way that you can hit people, is when they're on their mobile phone using an app as well with those display ads. The nice thing is you get that image with a call to action, and of course, clicks you can drive to your website. So that's an available tactic for this space, okay?
That's awesome.
Another unique one is what's called native advertising. So if you've ever been to a news website, and this is most commonly where those ads will appear, and you're reading some news articles, okay? And then about halfway down, maybe, or a third of the way down, depends on the site, you'll see something that looks at first like a news article, but then you realize it's an ad, okay? And sometimes they're a little bad and they have a bit of a clickbait to them, maybe because of the image or the title, but those are called native ads, and those are allowed in this space, okay? And those can be an image with text, or they can also be a video as well with text next to it. So those are two options that you can use, and that's going to get you into some news content related sites.
And then does that link back to the website?
Again, so when someone sees that native ad and they watch that video that you've put out there, that's 30 seconds, let's say, and they're interested, again, they can click it and go right to your website. So it's another version of display or video pre-roll. They just call it native because of where it typically is positioned. So that's another good tactic that's available. Another fun one that you can utilize is, and we talked a bit about it early on with terrestrial radio, which is like traditional radio that we'd listen to in our car, but there are some online streaming platforms that allow CBD ads. Okay. So for instance, one of those is Spotify. One of those is LiveX Live. So there's different platforms that people stream for their music content that you can run ads on. The nice thing about that type of platform versus traditional radio, even if it were allowed, is you can do more targeting. Okay. So if we give an ad to, let's say, the local country station in any market, anybody in the marketplace is going to hear that ad, even if it's not relevant to them, potentially if they're tuning in. With this, you can say, hey, let's say I've got a storefront, right? And I know that most of the people that are going to come shop my storefront are within 5 miles of my store. So I'd rather have my ad just heard by people in that 5-mile radius. So that's the beauty of streaming advertising, is you can do some more targeting based on geography, demographics, as well as even different types of music. So you could say, hey, I know someone probably listening to conservative talk isn't going to be a candidate for me, but maybe somebody that listens to this type of music is. So you can pick the types of platforms too.
What's the cost of something like that? I'm very unfamiliar with cost. I mean, I understand like cost per click or per lead or marketing versus,
Yeah. So with these last couple tactics, so we mentioned video pre-roll earlier, where I said you're reaching people for about 2 cents each, right? Display advertising typically runs about a penny per person to reach. This streaming audio, depending on the platform, typically runs around 2.5 cents for each person that hears your ad. Okay. So again, very cost efficient, especially if you're knowing that you're targeting a bit better and reaching people. And then the nice thing is a lot of those platforms allow what they call a companion banner. So if someone's listening and they're interested, and you can even say in the ad, which we recommend people do, is mention that they can click on the banner that's on their screen at that time. So because someone might be busy and they're not looking at the screen at that moment, but they're just listening to the music, doing something around the home or office, or home office nowadays, since we're all sequestered in our homes. But they can just, you can say, hey, look at your screen right now, and there's a great offer you can click on, and just literally get them to turn their head, and then they can click and go to your website. So that's a nice added value with that streaming. But again, very cost efficient. And I think that's that's often the misperception, is that media is so expensive, but it's not if it's done right.
I have a question about conversion. And my understanding is that for somebody to act on, say, pushing on the screen or remember Target River, they have to hear it 6 to 8 times, right? So if I'm playing it in the radio and I hear it on the radio, before I remember it or actually act on it at another time, how many times consistently, and what is my real play? You say, for a penny a person, but that's not a penny a lead. That's a penny an eyesight, or a penny.
Yeah, an eyesight. Yeah. So an impression, the way I try to help people remember what an impression is, because that's a word that's used in the industry a lot. Impressions mean a set of eyes that see the ad or a set of ears that hears the ad. Okay. And so you're right. And I was just looking at this the other day, yesterday, actually, and there's different numbers out there from as low as 5,000 to as high as 8, which means the number of ads someone is exposed to every day. 5,000 to maybe as high as 8,000. Okay. That is a ton. And you may dispute it, right? But then when you think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's probably true, because you drive down the freeway. How many billboards were you exposed to? Those all count. How many ads that you're ignoring, or sick of on the radio that you see? How many times when you're on Facebook, how many, and you're streaming your feed, how many ads are you exposed to? When you slow down and think about it, you're like, wow, that could actually be true. I go to the mailbox, I check for the bills. There's 5, 6 direct mail pieces. Those count. So it all adds up. So you're right. But the challenge is there's not a set rule of thumb for every marketing tactic, okay, as to how often you need to reach them. For instance, Facebook and Instagram, once you've hit somebody about 3 times, they're done. They've either decided to respond or they're not going to respond. Okay. So that's kind of a rule of thumb with Facebook and Instagram.
Well, that's very different when it's in your hand and you have a call to action immediately.
Exactly.
Versus driving in the car with my kids or driving down the road and seeing it. That's a completely different ask of me to then go back and act on it versus the impulse buy, right? Yep. And taking yourself out of that impulse buy, it's a longer play when it comes to marketing, and it's a longer game, and understanding it's more about branding than it is the immediate conversion to sale.
And it's going to be different. So like video pre-roll, for example, we can target people maybe on past things that they've searched for. So somebody that's been searching for your type of product that's exposed to the video and offered to click and go to your site might need to see it fewer times before they respond, because they're actively searching for that type of product or service. Somebody that we just think fits the demographic and the geography of who we want to attract and hasn't been actively searching for your service or product, they're going to take longer time. So they might take on average 15 times. So when we're running campaigns and we're setting that frequency, it's called, how many times in a given period someone's going to be exposed to the ad. On video marketing, we'll set that at around 15 to 20 per month. Okay. So a bit higher than we might on Facebook, like we were talking about, in Instagram, where we're going to set it at 3 and then change the ad, because that ad's dead and we need to have a new one with a different creative, different message, different call to action. On radio and television, traditional platforms, if you have a sense of urgency, like it's an event or it's a special sale, it's limited time, you need to have a frequency of 4 to 5 ads hitting each person per week to have that kind of level, because it's urgent. You need them to take action. If you're a brand that's trying to just get awareness out there, then we back that off to maybe 5 times in a month. But the more urgent your message is, or your need is, or your sales event is, then the higher frequency that you need to have. But you're right, on the display ads, those banner ads we talked about that just pop up on websites and on apps and stuff, we set typically, well, you'll see a lot of culprits out there. When you're in Google settings, for instance, in Google Ads, the default for frequency is unlimited. So many advertisers do not know to go in and change that. And so people they get pissed off at your brand because they're seeing your darn banner ad everywhere they go. And it's fine for the first 5, 6 times. It gets really annoying. How often, I can tell you many times I've wanted to smash my phone because I'm sick of seeing ads. And so
I have reported ads and because it's annoying. I get sick and tired of seeing the same shoe ad or the same purse ad or over and over and over again. So I validate that personally. I experience exactly what you're saying.
So we'll go in for those types of ads, for instance, and we'll take it from unlimited. Think about that. A lot of advertisers, unlimited times in a given day. We bring it back down to 8 times a day. And that still seems like a lot, but it's a lot less than unlimited. So that's a powerful thing there. But you're right then. So even when you factor that, and let's say I want to hit somebody 15 times with my video over the course of the month, that's still only 30 cents. That's still less than the cost of a postage stamp to mail somebody to somebody. And how much more powerful would it be for your brand to show an awesome video that represents you well 15 times to your targeted audience, and they've got the chance to click and go to your site, go to your Facebook page, wherever you want to send them. If you're using a click funnel page, send them there to get them into your drip marketing and all that stuff. It's cost efficient, and that's what's valuable. And we work with a lot of politicians and candidates when they're running for office and stuff, and there's still a lot of them that believe in direct mail and sending out tons of it. Me personally, I get sick of getting that direct mail. But I always remind people, okay, how much are you going to spend to send somebody one postcard, right? 50, 60, 70 cents. How many times can I send them an audio ad or a video ad or a search ad for that same cost, And that's a big difference.
Okay,
want to mention another thing that tactic wise, okay? So
Yeah.
with the social platforms right now, they're not going to, like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they're not going to accept paid ads from you for your CBD products, but they do not restrict you from having a page, a profile, a Twitter handle. So it's all about that's your organic space. Okay. So that's about creating followers, just like our own personal accounts, right? You can create those pages, you can promote them. So it's really important to have the tools in place that allow you to track what hashtags are trending, who's talking about the space, are there influencers in the space that are talking about themes or hashtags that are important to you? How can you connect and get them involved in your thread of conversation? But having a powerful organic social media plan is great for this industry and space. Okay, because you're not restricted. So people got to remember though, if you have, let's say 200 people that follow your Facebook page, okay, when you post today and you put that out there, not all 200 people get to see it. Okay. Facebook says, all right, we're going to let a handful of people see your post on their feed. And then their computer is going to look and say, okay, how exciting was that post to your followers? Meaning how many of them engaged it, commented on it, shared it, did something with it. If only a few people did, they're going to keep the funnel really tight and not a lot of people see the post. But if a bunch of people respond to it quickly, they're going to open up that funnel and the majority of your followers may get to see your post then. So that it's really important to not only post, but to make sure it's engaging. And part of that is monitoring that to engage those people. So if someone comments on it, you better comment on their comment. You know, if you see somebody sharing it, you better make sure you thank them as a comment for sharing that post. Those are the things that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, they all want to see, because just like Google and all the other ones, they want good content out there, because they know that the more good content that's out there, the longer you and I are going to stay on their platform and use it and get sucked into it, where all of a sudden we look and go, oh my God, I was just on Instagram for an hour and a half instead of going to sleep, because you got sucked into the, watching videos and commenting and all that stuff. That's important to monitor.
I call this the talking and the listening of social media. There's two different parts, right? You have to go out and actually talk and share, and then you also have to listen and bring them back in by engaging and having conversation with them.
Exactly.
There's definitely two different parts. It's one thing to just put up posts, but it's another thing and very time consuming to get involved and actually engage with the groups that you're involved in, target different audiences personally. Also, a thing that I learned is through Facebook pages, any friends can get on and share pages. So say Global Hemp Association, you become a friend, you can go in and invite all of your friends to then become or follow my page. And organically, that builds an audience really well.
Exactly. Yeah. No, so there's some great simple things there that you do. As an ad agency, we subscribe to some software that we utilize that helps accelerate things for us. For instance, we can put in an industry or a specific product type and get updates on what hashtags are trending at a click of a button, for instance. And then we can see what posts are using those hashtags even, and who is posting. So if we want to try to engage that influencer and maybe piggyback on what they're talking about, we can do that with just a couple clicks of a button, so we can expand that potential audience. And that's, because you've probably seen it. You can go, and maybe it's even a friend's page. They've got 5,000 people that follow their Instagram profile, and only 4 people ever like their posts, Businesses are like that often too, where maybe they did like on Facebook, you can run a paid ad campaign where the goal is to get more likes for your page. Okay. And it's not necessarily, I'm not poo-pooing the idea, but the key is, as you do that, you need to make sure you have good content that's engaging all these new followers you're bringing in. Otherwise, you're going to look up one day and have 10,000 followers and only 5 people paying attention to your post. So real important, but a great strategy, again, because it's available for this industry and space.
So I've got a couple of questions that I want to bring up real quick, but I think that I want to validate all the things you've said. It's important, and I think you've given a ton of information that's good across all different industries, different tools that we can look at, right?
Yeah.
Donna said that you're making her realize she's a beast. She's done a really good job with her group and communication and growing and staying engaged. She does a lot of videos and contests, but things that have done a good job engaging. And then I had another question on here. It says, what are your thoughts on third-party website design companies like BigCommerce and GoDaddy? Aren't those platforms to build your sites on, or?
Yeah. No, okay. And GoDaddy, Wix, there's Square. There's a lot of tools out there that will help you when you're building that site. And they have really improved over the years, okay? From the tools that they make available to you, to the templates that are available. And one of the biggest areas that has improved is their ability to do search engine optimization on those. One of the big challenges with a lot of those sites that you might build on a platform before was you were really limited into the work that you could do to make it search friendly, okay? So we have clients now that will come to us that onboard with our company. And we used to say, oh God, you're on GoDaddy. We need to get you off there and stuff and do a new version in WordPress typically, and get you on a different hosted server. Nowadays, that's not necessarily the case. So we'll go in and we'll do the optimizations that we need, and it's not an adverse thing. One of the key things though, when it comes to those platforms, is you have to think about your site, the size of it. So if you've got a site that's got tons of video content, lots of images, and maybe you're selling a lot of products, when you sign up for most of those platforms, your site's hosted on a shared server, okay? Meaning there's tons of other websites on that same box, all right? So if all those other sites start getting a lot of traffic at the same time, what happens to your site speed? It just slows way down. So for some of our clients, we found it's worth paying $100 a month or so to have a dedicated server that your website is hosted on. So that's one of the key things, whether you're on any platform, check the size of your site, how much traffic you're going to get. And it's worth, because the shared server hosting is usually around $20 a month. And it's often worth paying that extra $80 a month to have that shared server, okay? Or to have the dedicated server. So, but design, go ahead.
You've got my mind rolling. I've got all kinds of questions and things I'm going to go and look up, or things that I want to do and implement. And of course, it takes time, right? So, Brian, I feel like you've given us a lot of great information and all the things everybody should be doing. But the reality is not all of us have the time. It's a lot of work to do what you've talked about. And I've tried. I maxed out my friends on social media. I've tried to post every day. Reality is I need someone to help, right? And I've got somebody that's helping me do stuff. But man, you've shared a lot. And so if somebody's interested in diving more into what services you have to offer, especially as so many businesses in our space have gone to e-commerce and now have the capability of taking credit card payments so that they can become online businesses. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think it's now 47 states that you can ship CBD products to here in the US. Yeah. So it's exciting to see. So our contact information, first, my phone number is 619-571-7359. And then our website is pretty easy to remember, right here on the sign, targetriver.com. So again, targetriver.com. And you can learn a bit about the different tactics and approach that we take. And I think that's the biggest thing that's different about us versus probably any other agency that you talk to, is our proprietary approach that we have for our clients with our who, how, what strategy that makes such a difference. And I'm going to toot our horn here for a second, okay? Tuesday night, we found out that we were actually recognized and are going to be officially awarded on October 6th, I think it is, as the Marketing Agency of the Year in the United States. So we were super pumped to find out that information. I know I'm not supposed to say anything yet, but the official press release comes out in about a week about that. And normally I don't care about awards, but this is just a validation of the work that we do for our clients. and the quality of it. I think the biggest thing for me though is the retention of clients that we have, because that shows that what we're doing is working for them. And the clients that continue to renew year after year with us, that's what I get excited about more than just a trophy or an award, even though they're awesome. So thanks, Tana. Appreciate that. Congrats. So
Brian, that's incredible.
I'm happy to talk. One thing that we offer to businesses out there is we do what we call a complementary target marketing analysis. And what that does is for their business, and if they're in CBD or whatever industry they're in, but they've got a certain group or target, we'll put together a recommendations of the best tactics they should be using to promote themselves. And then they can take that and go off and do it themselves, work with somebody else if they already are, or they may see that they need our help in a certain area. And that's where we really help a lot of clients, is we do all that heavy lifting. We're that behind the scenes marketing gorilla for any business that can take care of the video production, the video deployment, the SEO, or whatever it is, so that the business owners and management can focus on what they do best. And that's helping your customers, creating more products, selling more products.
I love it. I love it. Well, I know that not just I will be calling, but besides Mona and a few others will be calling. So I'm excited. I'd love to hear, especially in the industry, some of these tactics. And again, it goes back to, it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to do it. And
exactly.
One thing that I've said this whole time since I've started with Global Hemp Association and Utah CBD Collective is it's not knowing everything and knowing how to do everything, but partnering with people like yourself that can pick up the piece so that you can focus on what you're good at, or another part to generate revenue or sales or whatever it is.
Right. So, collaboration is
so, again, Brian.
Of course, collaboration is so powerful, and it really is how we can grow. There's that saying, it takes a village, and that's so true in the business industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for collaborating with us. I'd love to have you on more.
Awesome.
I'd love to share more of your information and knowledge with people. You gave us a lot of great tools, right? And things to think about. So thank you very much. I hope you stay out of the fires. I hope that everything is clear for you, moving a different direction now. And other than that, I'll be calling you. How about that?
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mandy, for your time. And thanks to everybody that tuned in. You guys all have a great day.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.